What's up, you guys? Welcome back to another one. If you're new to the channel, I am Gold Pony. I do new car, truck, SUV reviews on YouTube, and today we're in the brand new 2025 Chevy Tahoe, courtesy of Lawrence Chevrolet in Mechanicsburg, PA. For more information on their inventory, please feel free to check out the link in the description box below. So today we're in this one because this may very well be possibly the best full-size SUV available right now. You have realistic third row legroom, tons of cargo space, and there's some big changes for 2025 as well. So ultimately in this video, we will be testing out and going over everything about this one, from acceleration to braking, steering feel, ride quality, sound system, exhaust clip, all that fun stuff. So having said all of that, what do you guys say? Let's just go ahead and jump right into it. And as always, let's start with pricing. And so as you can imagine, there are several different trim levels for the 2025 Tahoe. You got the LS starting at $60,495, LT for $63,695, RST for $68,495, Premier, which is the one we are in today, going for $75,095, High Country for $78,695, and lastly the Z71 going for $70,495. And so the Z71 comes standard with four-wheel drive. All the other trim levels come standard with rear-wheel drive. However, you can add four-wheel drive to any of those other trim levels. If you wanted to do that, simply add $3,000 then to any of those prices. So when it comes to the power plant, all of the trim levels but the High Country get the same engine configuration. So for that standard engine configuration, and the one that we have today, obviously, that one is powered by a 5.3 liter direct injected V8, putting out 355 horsepower at 5,600 RPM, 383 pound-feet of torque coming in at 4,100 RPM. That power being sent to rear wheels or all wheels through a 10-speed automatic with paddle shifters. I'll have you know, we'll test those out here in a little bit, but 0 to 60 time, approximately 7.5 seconds. That's respectable, with MPG numbers coming in at 15 in the city, 20 on the highway, taking regular unleaded fuel. You gotta love that. So the 87 octane. But so then there is that other engine configuration, again belonging to the High Country trim level, and it is optional otherwise. It's an option for $8,640 if you wanted it, but that one's a 6.2 liter direct injected V8. That one puts out 420 horsepower, 460 pound-feet of torque. Again, power sent to rear wheels or all wheels through a 10-speed automatic. 0 to 60 time for that one substantially quicker at 5.7 seconds. MPG numbers there, 14 in the city, 19 on the highway, again taking premium unleaded fuel. And then there's one optional engine configuration, a lot of different engine configurations, so I wanted to cover them all. 3 liter turbo diesel inline 6-cylinder. That one goes for $5,540. That gives you 305 horsepower, which is up 38 horsepower from last year's Tahoe, and then 495 pound-feet of torque, which is up 35 pound-feet of torque from last year's model. Power sent to rear wheels or all wheels through a 10-speed automatic. 0 to 60 time for that one, 7.8 seconds with MPG numbers, 21 in the city, 28 on the highway. That's a lot of different engine configurations, guys. But anyways, like I said, we got the 5.3 liter V8. So having said that, what do you guys say? Let's go ahead and find a straightaway. Let's put the paddle shifters and acceleration gear to the test. I want to see how quickly the paddle shifters react for us here. And of course, let's see how quickly we can get this one here up to speed. All right, found our straightaway in 3, 2, 1, yo! Wow! Nice sound. There's nothing wrong with that. For as heavy and as large of an SUV as the Tahoe is, that's plenty of an acceleration. And I love that it's a naturally aspirated engine too. So many manufacturers these days are swapping out the naturally aspirated V8s for the twin turbo V6s. And I like the V8 better. So, and this V8 has been around for quite a while as well, so you would think the reliability would be a little better as well, which I would love to see in the back of my mind. So big fan of all of that. No issues emerging onto the highway. But anyways, to go along with that acceleration, as always, braking is equally important. So four-wheel ventilated disc brakes do come standard. As far as that 60 to 0 stopping distance goes, it comes in at 133 feet, which is not the best on paper, but again, this is a large SUV. As far as braking feel goes, it's probably the softest braking feel. Like it doesn't, I don't know, it feels like 133 feet. I'll put it that way. Typically with 3-row SUVs, you want to see in the 120s at least. So 133 feet is definitely on the higher end of things. So it's something that you would get used to. I'll just put it that way. I'm not the biggest fan of the braking, but I love the V8. I'll go back to that. But anyways, then touching on suspension and handling. Up front, you're gonna get a coilover shock front suspension. In the back, multi-link rear suspension. And Chevy actually revised the tuning of the 2025 Tahoe to give it a smoother ride for this year as well. And that's honestly one of the first things I noticed when I got in this one. I was like, dang, this is a really smooth ride. Like, I like it. It soaks up Pennsylvania's road imperfections perfectly fine. So wonderful ride quality here in the Tahoe. My short little test drive here today so far. Did want to also mention though, there is an optional adaptive air suspension that goes for $1,465, and that's going to be available for the RST, the Z71, and the High Country. So previously it wasn't available for the RST, but this is the first year where it actually is available as an option for that RST trim level, and that's going to give you obviously the smoothest ride possible in this one. But like I said, overall ride quality has been perfectly fine in my short little test drive here today. Now the steering feel, I love the steering feel in the Tahoe. It's definitely weighted on the heavier side of things. I feel like it instantly points you in the direction that you want to go. It's just a very nice steering feel in this thing. So 100% on point there. As far as cabin noise goes, really the only thing I'm getting, this is a pretty serene cabin. Really the only thing I'm getting is that massive V8 when you really get on it. But other than that, this is a pretty nice serene cabin in this thing. And that's due in part because you do get acoustic laminated glass for actually every single trim level across the board. So not all SUVs and vehicles out there give you that. So the Tahoe does, and that's probably why it's very serene in this thing. But then touching our rear visibility, I can see 100% perfectly fine out of my rear view mirror there. So definitely no issues there. And I don't have the third row up right now, so I don't know how the headrest would impede visibility, but I can tell you with the setup I got right now, if you don't have third row passengers, fold that third row down, and it's 100% on point there. Rain sensing windshield wipers do come standard on every single trim level across the board. You gotta love that. And then if you were to go with that High Country, and it's gonna be optional on the Premier, you can get a head-up display, and that's gonna project your speed limit, and safety features up onto your windshield. Again, better helping you keep your eyes on the road, so you gotta appreciate that too. But that pretty much rounds out the performance segment of this review, guys. Let's now go ahead and take a look at the exterior in this wonderful part here of our brand new 2025 Chevy Tahoe. All right, so here she is, you guys, the new 2025 Chevy Tahoe, finished in black. Yes, that is the creative exterior color name that Chevy went with for this one. But anyways, it looks good nonetheless. But let's go ahead and start with what's new on the exterior real quick. New wheel designs for 2025, including the largest ever 24-inch designs available. So that's what's new on the exterior at least. But let's go ahead and start with where this one is made. Taking a look at the VIN, first character is the number 1, indicating that the Tahoe is built and assembled here in the US, specifically Texas. So if you're from Texas, you have to buy this or the Tundra, basically. Those are the two Texas vehicles that I know of off the top of my head. But starting up front, LED headlights with LED daytime running lights do come standard. You get the automatic feature with those. You also get automatic high beams. So if you have your high beams on at night, since the vehicle coming in the opposite direction is going to automatically dim them back to low beams. And when that vehicle is gone, it's going to bounce it back up to high beams for you there. Did want to also mention for the Z71, you're going to get red recovery hooks and also a front skid plate for that Z71 as well, because that's kind of the off-road trim level. You're going to get some High Country lettering in the front grille for the High Country trim, and also some bronze accents within that front grille for the High Country as well. Front air curtains down to the bottom corners there, just outside of those headlights, helping direct air around the wheel and tire combination for a little better aerodynamics there. But overall, this pretty much looks the same as it has in the past. I like the LED fog lights as well. Don't want to forget to mention that. A lot of chrome with the Premier. That's what you guys are going to see on this one, but that pretty much rounds out the front end. Let's now go ahead and swing around to the side. All right, so now since we are around to the side of this one, all the way to the top, silver roof rails up there. You guys can see those. Rear privacy glass does come standard. I like that. Believe it or not, you don't always get rear privacy glass in SUVs these days. Chrome belt line molding does come standard. You get the Tahoe lettering found on the front doors. That is something that Chevy tends to do on their vehicles. Taking a look at the side mirrors, they are body colored, power adjustable side mirrors. They will be heated with integrated turn signals then as well. Taking a look down at the running boards though, running boards actually do come standard on the Tahoe, and that's a good thing because the Tahoe definitely sits up a good bit, so probably would be kind of hard getting in and out of this one without those running boards. And by the way, the High Country gives you power deployable running boards, so I like that. Then taking a look down at the wheel setup, they are going to vary drastically depending upon the trim level that you go with, ranging from 18 to 24 inches in design, and then there's several new designs, like I said, for 2025 as well. And by the way, in terms of designs, what you guys are looking at is 22-inch carbon flash wheels, which go for $2,025 in case you were interested. But like I said, so many different designs available, and we got one of them. But that pretty much rounds out the side profile. Let's now go ahead and swing around to the back. All right, so now since we are around to the back of this one, all the way to the top, rear spoiler with an integrated brake light. If you're wondering where the rear window wiper is on the Tahoe, this is something that they have done for quite a while now. They kind of pioneered this design, I guess, but the rear window wiper is tucked up underneath of that rear spoiler. That helps with rear visibility because it is not affixed to the rear glass, so I like that. Got the Tahoe lettering spelled out horizontally there. A little bit of trim level badging found on the rear liftgate there as well. You do get LED taillights. They do come standard, and then to the very bottom there, a single exhaust outlet is going to come standard on the LS and LT. However, there is dual exhaust outlets with quad tips for the RST, the Premier, High Country, and Z71. That's what you guys are looking at. I love this look. So anyways, I do believe you guys know what we have to do next here. As always, here is that exhaust clip. Alright, so now since we are around to the back of this one, when it comes to opening that rear lift gate, it is actually a hands-free power lift gate for the LT trim level and up. You gotta love that. So it is hands-free. There's a button on the key fob, and of course there's a rubberized button on the lift gate itself then as well. But once opened up, cargo capacity comes in at 25.5 cubic feet behind that third row. Of course, the third row does fold down. There's actually buttons found in the cargo area to fold that third row down. That bumps that up to 72.6 cubic feet. That's a ton behind the second row there. So if you just had second row passengers, that's a ton right there. And then with all rows folded, 122.7 cubic feet. I think the only thing more than that is probably the Suburban, obviously the Escalade, and the Volkswagen ID Buzz, and that's about it. That's a ton of space back there. But you got cargo lighting back there, you got grocery bag hooks, there's tie-down anchors, 115 volt power outlet I found back there, and then if you were to lift up underneath of that cargo floor, you will find some in-floor storage. And if you're curious where the spare tire is, that's actually located up underneath of the Tahoe, kind of where the exhaust is basically. But then making our way up to the third row legroom, that comes in at 34.9 inches. For reference, I'm an even 6 feet tall. This is how much space I had in the back there. As far as rear ventilation goes, it's rear vents on the ceiling that goes all the way into the third row, in case you were curious about that. Got cup holders back there. There's also USB charging ports actually for both sides in that third row. You don't always get that in SUVs, so wanted to emphasize it. But then making our way up to the second row legroom, that comes in at 42 inches. That is insane. Again, for reference, I'm an even 6 feet tall. This is how much space I had in the back there. USB charging ports do come standard to get captain's chairs for the Premier and High Country trim levels. I like that. Bench seating otherwise, obviously. Heated second row for the Premier and High Country as well, so you get to spoil the rear passengers a little bit there. The only thing I would add to this one, and I wish it had it, would be rear window sunshades. However, having said that, there would be some massive rear window sunshades because the windows are so big in this thing, but still, that would be pretty cool to see. So Chevy, I like everything so far, just there's some rear window sunshades up there. But then making our way up to the front seats, cloth seating for the LS, leather seating for the LT trim level and up. You get an 8-way power adjustable driver's seat that does come standard for all trim levels. Heated front seats for the LT trim level and up. Ventilated front seats for the Premier and High Country. Overall, as far as seat comfort goes, it's perfectly fine. I didn't have any issues with the seat comfort. This is definitely a road trip vehicle, and these seats are perfectly fine there. But now let's go ahead and make our way to the steering wheel. It is tilt and telescoping. It is going to be leather wrapped. It is power adjustable for the Premier and High Country, and then heated for the Premier and High Country then as well. And then making our way to the startup, let me start by showing you guys the key here. This kind of feels like the Cadillac key I just drove. You got your Chevy logo on the one side. When you flip it over, lock, unlock, the ×2 buttons, your remote start. And by the way, that comes standard on all trim levels, and then the buttons to pop the rear lift gate there. But it is all keyless entry with a push button start. So all I'm going to do here is simply put my foot on the brake and press that engine start button located kind of by the driver's right knee there. And so once started up, what you were looking at is an 11-inch digital gauge cluster. It looks dang good in my opinion. I love the layout here. You got a digital speedometer all the way down there to the left. You have navigation front and center. I bet you can change that up, and you can. So there's steering wheel mounted controls found on the right side of the steering wheel, and you can change the looks with that. So all kinds of different looks you could display up there. I like that. I'm just gonna keep toggling through it. Whoa, that's a sporty look right there. I think I'm gonna keep it on that. I love the customization to the gauges. Well done, Chevy there. Not all the time will you get that customization, even with the digital gauge cluster, believe it or not. So Chevy did a pretty darn good job with their gauges there. Outside temperature, time of the day of the week, how many miles you have left until you hit empty, pretty much everything you need up there. But now let's go ahead and make our way to overall interior quality. If you were looking for a panoramic power sunroof, that is going to be optional for all trim levels. It doesn't come standard, unfortunately, but yeah, it's there for you if you want it though. Universal home remote for the LT trim level and up, wireless phone charger for the LT trim level and up, and that wireless phone charger is located just underneath the climate control buttons there. It's pretty decent in size too, like you can put a massive phone there. Just behind that, you got a decent amount of storage there. It's where I'm charging up my camera battery. You got cup holders just behind that, surrounded in a gloss black. Then within the center armrest, there's a pretty decent amount of storage in there, as you would expect from a Tahoe. I like the weight to the door handles as well. It's something I don't always mention, except when I notice it. Usually door handles are a lot lighter than the feeling that I'm getting here in the Tahoe, so I like that. I like kind of this tailored dash up here. You got the wood trim just below that. I don't know if it's real wood, but it looks pretty darn good. The only thing I think I'm missing when it comes to interior quality is some nice multicolor ambient lighting. I think that would do really, really good in this vehicle, although I don't see it, unfortunately. So Chevy, add that as well. You can check out your climate control settings up here, of course, as well. Heated and ventilated seat buttons, as well as your radio information, of course. So when it comes to the sound systems, there are 2 of them. You get 6 speakers for the LS, LT, RST, and Premier, believe it or not. And then a 10-speaker Bose sound system for the High Country NZ71. So we do actually have that as an option here. I see the Bose lettering found on the speakers there. So let's go ahead and turn on the radio, see what we got playing today, and let's test out our Bose sound system that we have with us here today. Pretty stinking cool song, and yeah, there's nothing wrong with that sound system. I've had Bose sound systems in my cars before. They've never failed me, so they're definitely a very reputable company. Plenty of bass there, plenty of clarity, so I don't have any issues with that. But anyways, last thing I wanted to mention to you guys on that infotainment screen is when you do put the Tahoe in reverse, you will find a pretty darn high definition rear view camera coming standard there. I like that. Got the surround view monitor there to the left as well. Just looks like exactly like the Cadillac I just reviewed, which is pretty stinking cool. But that, as always, is going to lead us into safety. So front side curtain airbags do come standard. In the back, you're going to have latch, aka lower anchors and tethers for children for the rear car seats, rear child door locks, tire pressure monitoring system, but also coming standard, forward collision alert, a following distance indicator, front pedestrian braking, front and rear park assist, love that, lane keep assist, lane departure warning, and a teen driver mode then as well. So overall, when it comes to my final thoughts here, obviously a ton of space. That's really the biggest selling point to the Tahoe, is you get 122 cubic feet of total cargo space, and that's just unheard of these days. It's one of the best. Very quiet interior as well. Very serene cabin, and the acoustic laminated glass definitely contributed to that. Like I said, it's a very nice cabin here. Also, very good ride quality. That is another thing that I was really impressed with. It was a very smooth ride. Definitely one you would want to take on a long road trip. If you got somebody that gets car sick, you might be all right in the Tahoe. I'm not saying that as a definite, but you might be all right just because it's a very nice ride quality in this thing. As far as room for improvement goes, like I said, I mentioned a few of the things as I went on. Ambient lighting, and then I think the last thing I would say is just the braking feel. The braking feel is really, it always has been kind of weird for me whenever I drive a Suburban or a Tahoe. But like I said, it's just something that you get used to. My brother actually just bought a 2025 Tahoe maybe a few months ago, and that's one of the things he said as well. It's just something you get used to. It's not a bad thing. It's just, it doesn't feel normal. I don't know how else to put it. Let me know what you guys think of the Tahoe in the comment section below. That's about it for this one, you guys. Thank you so much for watching. Feel free to follow me on social media stuff somewhere on the screen. Be sure to hit the subscribe and the bell notification button if you're into new car reviews. That is what I've been doing here for 11 years on this channel. Do appreciate you guys watching more than you know. I will see you guys all in the next video. Stay gold.